also think that another thing that you need to, I know a lot of the agents are using the as-is contracts.
Mm-hmm.
That's typically what I use.
Mm-hmm.
But for that FAR residential contract,
Yes.
I think it's very important to see what, as a seller, you're agreeing to for the repairs, for the WDO,
Mm-hmm.
the permits, and other repairs.
Hi everybody, welcome back to another Workout Wednesday. Thank you for joining us for another week. I hope you enjoyed last week's video with Casey Johnson. We are actually back in our Atlantic Beach office this week with another special guest, Staci Spanos Gibson.
Hi Noah.
How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
It's wonderful to have you on. I do start these out kind of all the same, just learn a little more about you. So Just kind of give a quick background of maybe what you're doing before real estate as well as how you got into real estate.
Before I was in real estate, I was a television anchor at WJXT TV, News 4 Jack, some people know it as, and so I had that background. I loved it because I love news and I love to interview people, so it's kind of weird being on the opposite side. I'm going to taste my own medicine. Be gentle, please. I transitioned into real estate because while I was doing that profession, I was doing real estate on the side personally for me and my family.
Okay.
And I started working with Berkshire Hathaway in the Atlantic Beach office back in, I believe, 2018, and I've been here ever since.
Very nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So for today, we are going to be talking about the end of transaction. So for a lot of these, we've been working through the whole process of a real estate transaction. Now we're kind of on that tail end of it. So for our first question, I want to ask, what are the most important elements of a real estate contract that buyers and sellers should pay close attention to?
I would say the T word, timelines,
Okay.
timelines, and timelines.
Yeah.
And that's something that I know agents are really fixated on, as they should be. That's what I fixate on. And I also think that another thing that you need to, I know a lot of the agents are using the as-is contracts. That's typically what I use. But for that FAR residential contract, I think it's very important to see what, as a seller, you're agreeing to for the repairs, for the WDO, the permits, and other repairs, what number is being put in there. Because I think that as standard is 1.5% of anything that comes up. If an agent is putting a number in there, what you're agreeing to pay up front before we even have an inspection back. So that's something important to keep track of. So
the timeline then, kind of just like those minute details, just making sure that you've looked at everything very carefully and you understand exactly what you're on the hook for.
Absolutely.
So how are you keeping track of all these on the timeline, how are you keeping track of all the key deadlines and ensuring nothing falls through the cracks whenever you're presenting the offer?
Yeah, I know people have different ways to do it. A lot of people track it on their phone. I'm old-fashioned. I like to keep an actual paper calendar, and I do it that way. And I also, whenever I get a contract, I have a PDF template, and I actually put in the day of acceptance, timeline deadline, the inspection deadline, financing deadline, all of those things. And I send that to not just my buyer or seller, but I also send it to the other agent. And that's, if there's any sort of discrepancy, like time of acceptance or anything like that, we can discuss it and work that out at the beginning of the transaction as opposed to the end of the transaction.
So for coordinating a lot of this communication, there's so many people involved in that end. So you have inspectors, you have all the title, you have coordinating with the buyers and with the sellers. How are you coordinating a lot of this?
Yeah, so that PDF template that I have, I send it out to everybody, and on it I also have the title, agent's name on there in email. I also have the lender, the inspector. That way, if anybody needs to reach those people, they see it. The question is, do people read all of the details on there? That gets kind of frustrating. That's okay. I mean, we all know how that goes. It's all on there.
Awesome. And then what are some common mistakes that you're seeing during the time of contract to close? So it could be somebody didn't get an email, as simple as that, or all the way down to the line of it could potentially fall through.
There's so many things that can go wrong, but we're all kind of like adept at a certain point at working through them. I mean, and sometimes things just do fall apart. I would say one of the more difficult parts, I think, is just kind of getting quotes for repairs, like for your buyers and your sellers, and especially for those people who don't do this every day.
Yeah.
So for an agent who is well connected, that is really beneficial for your client, in that you do have a long Rolodex of people that you can usually just snap a photo and say, hey buddy, can you give me like a rough quote, like this is going to be about $2,000. And so I think that's one of the more difficult parts for your client, but with a good real estate agent, you can take care of that pretty easily on their behalf. So they have a rough idea what the repair is going to cost. And if you don't know that, you don't have the chimney inspector, you have so many trusted colleagues who, with just an email, they're so willing to help to give you that vendor.
That was what Casey was saying last week. So if you haven't seen that, you might want to go watch it. He was saying that the main thing that he runs into is that tight timeline of getting those quotes. And that is such a almost like sprint to get a quote or somebody lined up so they can get out there and repair so that everything is lined up.
It's very important. Yeah.
So what tools or systems are you using to stay organized throughout the transaction? I know you said you have the PDF, but is there anything that we offer that's helping you out?
Yeah, we do have I know we have a timeline in .loop, and it's got a little checkbox on it, and I do use that. And then I know that they also have like a seller process in, I believe it's, I know it's on our dashboard, and I send that out to the seller as well, what to expect through the process, the inspections and repairs, and it does a really good job of letting them know what to expect through the process. Yeah. A lot of the people that I work with are seasoned real estate owners, so they kind of know already, but there's a lot who don't as well. So it's good for them to understand it. Again, we run into the issue, do they read it all? Do they read the fine print? So it's very important to have those conversations with them to prepare them.
Yes. So I would definitely find our seller process and our buyer process too helpful, because I'm very visual. I like to see something in front of me that's tangible rather than somebody that's telling me like, hey, this is what's going to happen. I want to follow along with what you're saying as well.
Exactly.
So that's helpful. For a client's responsibilities in the contract, how are you educating them on these responsibilities? Maybe what they're responsible for at the closing table, something like that.
Yeah, that's also very important too. A lot of people want those seller net sheets or the buyer net sheets to see what they're bringing to the table. So again, it all boils down to, I feel, good communication with them. So I do like those seller net sheets so that they can see it ahead of time. Obviously, I always make sure to say those are estimated net sheets so that you can see some people just like glance at them, other people, oh my gosh, go over them with a fine tooth comb, and then you have to get your title agent involved so that they can go over everything. But it all boils down to really good communication and using the tools that we have. We have so many tools, thank goodness. Yeah. It does take a while to get yourself familiar with them, but Gibraltar title quotes have been so great. I use those frequently, so much. So just utilize the tools, and if you don't know what they are, just come into the office. The longer you're here, you'll hear things, talk to seasoned agents. I mean, that's really the best way to learn.
Absolutely. So now I'm wanting to learn more about after everything's closed. You've had a successful transaction, everybody's gone home, they've got their new house, or they're moving on to the next journey. How does a well-managed contract to close period impact referrals, something like that? Continued business.
Yes, it helps a lot to be able to get referrals, to get those good testimonials. And I always do ask for a testimonial. I've been lately asking them for Google reviews because I think people can Google your name easily and see it, and they say like 10 or more is where you start getting traction. Yeah. It makes all the difference in the world. If people feel like there's surprises or landmines in their transaction, I mean, that's going to reflect poorly on you. Staci didn't tell me this, or she didn't tell me that. But, oh yeah, I was prepared because Staci told me this, and Staci told me that might happen, or that this could be my estimated net profit. So that is tremendously important. And a lot of times I struggle, like, should I communicate? Am I communicating too much? Not that I'm too verbose, because I don't think I am, except maybe in this interview. But somebody once told me it's always better to probably over communicate than under communicate.
Absolutely, I would agree. I think I'm always kind of that mindset of it's better to have it and not need it, and then to need it and not have it, because I hate showing up somewhere unprepared. Like today, I mean, you saw me kind of scrambling just to get the papers printed off for the questions, and I was freaking out in my own head. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not prepared. But it's a reflection of your work, and you always want to put on a great impression, because this is such a relationship business, and it goes so far to build up a good relationship because you want to, but also to continue on business.
And that's a really important thing, what you just said, scrambling and being prepared. I mean, especially when you start off new in this industry, you are just, like Christy Budnick always used to say, and I'm sure Linda said it too, you know, what are you trying to do, drink from a fire hose? I mean, that's really what it's like.
Yeah.
So you just have to remain calm, tread underwater like, you know, like you're running a marathon, but just communicate calmly and clearly.
Absolutely. So for our final question, what advice would you give to any new agents on wanting to build a reputation for having a smooth transaction?
Okay, I've got my notes here.
Awesome.
Okay. I would say study the contract as much as possible. Familiarize yourself with it. Sometimes it just happens because of your listings, but sometimes you don't have listings or any clients. So just study it, study it, study it. I would say ask another agent that you respect if you can go out on a listing presentation with them. I mean, there's so many generous people in this industry that would be more than happy to help you with that. I mean, what a great way to learn. I would say always reach out to your clients to communicate with them. Let them know that you care about them and that you will always be available for them to talk to. I mean, we know some people take advantage of that, but some people need a little more hand-holding than others. I would say always quickly return calls or correspondence with everybody, not just with your clients. And then again, fake it until you make it. Smile, stay calm, communicate clearly, and just like later go scream and shout, but then stay calm with everybody else.
Absolutely. Well, that is an awesome amount of advice, and I just want to thank you for coming on and doing this video. I always appreciate it. But other than that, I will see y'all next week. I'll make sure to put all of Staci's social media as well as her website on the screen and down below so you guys can go check her out further. But other than that, take care.